This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
So it's all for play for still?
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi, villains, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast with your host, Neil Dunworth. And I'm here again today with Paddy Kelly from the Munster Lions AVFC branch here in Ireland. As always, we are part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. And, we're kind of coming to you in a kind of a weird, abnormal situation that we find ourselves in the world at the moment. Paddy's in his house. I'm in my house. Two of us are recording a podcast here and we're going to be putting it out, and it looks like, if things come to pass, we could be in our houses for a lot longer the way things are there at the moment. And we're going to have a little chat about that and about the kind of the state of the nation, should we say, really, here with regards to cancellations and so on. We'll talk about that later on. But firstly, Paddy, how are you doing? How are things on your side?
Not too bad. No coronavirus just yet. Just taking stock of everything that's happened today and the cancellations and everything. So a lot to talk about, but we're talking about nothing really when it comes to the cancellations, unfortunately. I should be looking forward to playing Chelsea tomorrow, but what can we do?
Exactly, and that's 100% it. And for everybody out there, I'll be glad to report that I don't see stacks of pasta and stacks of toilet paper and boxes of paracetamol behind Paddy. He's been sensible. He hasn't gone out and raided his local Lidl or Tesco or anything like that. Be a bit more like Paddy. They will be open. Everything will be fine. And plus, diarrhea isn't a symptom of this disease, so why do we need all the toilet paper? I'm just saying.
I still can't work that one out, but whenever.
I went to the shop to I went and I said, I think I should maybe stock up. And I came out of it with 2 pizzas, and I went, yeah, that'll do me, and that'll do ourselves. Sure, we only ever eat about half a pizza anyway when we go near it. So there's 4 days' food if it comes to it. So that's about as much stockpiling as I've done. Oh, I did. I got a bag of frozen peas, which is I never buy. So so I've been one of those crazy hoarders, I suppose you could call me. But yeah.
Yeah, well, a few cans of beer was as far as I went.
Yeah, I brew my own, and I was just telling Paddy there just beforehand that the reason I was nearly 10 minutes late for the podcast because I was changing a bottle of gas on my keg, and it's a brand new, fresh, fully filled keg, and I went, you know what? This quarantine mightn't be so bad, Not that I have the virus, but just this what's it called? Social distancing, Paddy. I think that's what the term for it is at the moment. Yeah. Yeah,
which is what they're not doing in Cheltenham for the last week.
No, absolutely not. Although I've been distancing myself from the winners because I've been so far away from the winning line that it's been crazy. But for once in my life, for once that I can remember, my father usually says to me, "Listen, I'll give you my." He writes them down. This is my dad now. Writes down his bets, and he only bets at Cheltenham. Writes them down on a piece of paper, takes a photo of him, and sends them to me via text message. And I think there's something very fatherly about that. I was like, God, geez, it probably took you longer to do that than it would to text him in. And plus, I can't really writing. So as he texts me on the stuff, I'm looking at it and going, that could be one of about 8 horses. I go, Jesus, I have no idea. But yeah, so he's had a bang in Cheltenham. He's done better than break even anyway, which is better than I can say. So that was a precursor for the end of the world, I think, for me, that he was actually making good bets in Cheltenham because he's an absolute martyr and it worked out this time. JP McManus, Barry Geraghty. That's all he'll back.
You can't go too far wrong, can you?
Exactly. And he had 5 winners this year. And I was like going, all you needed was Ruby to retire. That's all you needed. Ruby wants to retire and you were on the pig's back. And AP McCoy, I suppose, as well. But yeah, no, he's had a good Cheltenham. But if that wasn't a precursor to the end of the world, I think our guys were fearing the apocalypse on Monday night against Leicester because our world ended for a brief 90 minutes on Monday night. And I must confess, I was out doing other things. I was at a gig. I took my missus here to a gig on the Monday night, so I didn't actually see it live. But when I came out of the arena and I looked at my phone, I literally went. First of all, I went, Jesus, we beat Leicester 4-0. And then I realised that it was the other way around. I was losing flash scoring. And then I realised, oh no, actually we lost 4-0. But yeah, pretty depressing scoreline, Paddy. I think we can both agree.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's something you probably would have expected earlier in the season, but you're going into every game with a bit of hope, especially this time around, because you're going, okay, it's the difference between 19th and 15th, I think. And we started so well, we two really good chances. Connor took the old golf phrase of a mulligan when he got 8 yards from goal and completely missed the ball. And then delivered a pinpoint pass into Samatta, who just couldn't get his leading leg onto it and just hit off his back leg and went out tamely for a goal kick. And I suppose after that, we kind of, I won't say we fell apart, because we're still in the game up till, for some reason, and I always do it, I said to the guys, we just need to stay in this till half time, the course of saying it out loud.
Yeah.
And it's like as if I just looked up at the screen and saw this yellow blob coming out of nowhere, and there was Pepe Reina, 30-odd yards from goal or wherever he was, and completely missed it. I was like, oh my God. I just couldn't believe it. We actually thought it was a streaker or a fan running onto the pitch. I just couldn't get my head around it whatsoever. And, when it all becomes apparent and the ball's in the back of the net, you're just like, why in God's name, at your age, are you coming for balls like that, which you have no right to get to?
Yeah, even Manuel Neuer would have struggled to get control and do something decent with that ball, and he just didn't work out for him. And, instances like that, I used to firmly believe for all my Villa fandom up until Martin O'Neill came along, probably even Martin O'Neill's second year, I used to believe we were cursed whenever on TV. Shit like that, excuse my language, would always happen to us on TV. A really stupid mistake, a crazy refereeing decision, an unbelievably maybe blatant mistake from one of our players would always happen. And I think during the Martin O'Neill years, we kind of got the rub of the green. We started winning on call it prime time, whenever we're on TV. And we've in the championship, we were pretty decent on TV. But this year, it's just been like VAR mistake, losing 2-goal leads, last minute goals, goalkeeping howlers like that. It's been one thing after another, really, when we're on TV. And, bad luck follows us around when the cameras are there.
Yeah, and it followed us into the second half as well with an unbelievable penalty award.
That was crazy.
And that's the other thing you left out of that long list of things that let us down this season. Like, I mean, since when does your shoulder become handball?
That's crazy.
It never was. You cast your mind back to the Arsenal game where a guy moved his arm out from his side to deflect Connor's shot around the post with his upper arm, not his shoulder.
Yeah.
And that was deemed not a penalty. So how is a shoulder a penalty?
Yeah.
And I know we go back to Wembley. The second goal in the game changes everything. And at that stage, we were just chasing our tail. We were trying our best to get back into a game, which just wasn't happening because we were frustrated. We couldn't get our passes together. They hit us on the break. Game over. It's just story of our season, I suppose.
It really has been it's been a situation where we get ourselves into decent positions. We play decently. We play well. We look like a Premier League team. And then, just literally out of nowhere, it's just thunderous bad luck. And it's difficult for a team at the bottom of the table. I'm not making excuses for this. And I know a lot of people want Dean Smith sacked and everything. I certainly don't. From that point of view, guys, you bring somebody in. This team doesn't know when it's going to be allowed to train. Never mind doesn't know when they're going to be playing a game together. They don't even know when they're going to be able to train. You sacked Dean Smith. I seen it there now. Oh, if we got rid of him now, we've got 4 weeks for someone to come in and put this team into shape. Also, I saw another ludicrous thing. I think it was in the Telegraph that Smith was going to get sacked and John Terry was going to take over. John Terry can take a hike. He's the most worthless part of this whole management scheme, in my view. He's out of here. Never realistically have been a fan of his. And look, great player and all that, but ultimately, it's I just fail to see what he does. But it's this. Look, the two aren't mutually exclusive, or they are mutually exclusive as well. We can be horrendously unlucky and lack confidence and lack composure on the field, and still have a manager that kind of knows what he's doing as well. I'm not saying we keep him forever. Okay, obviously there will come a time when Dean Smith will need to leave the club. He's not going to be it's very rare in this day and age that Alex Ferguson comes along. And actually, if we go back to Ferguson, he was just about to get sacked in his first or second season at United as well. Look what he went on to do. Now, that doesn't happen very often, so I'm not using him as a barometer for keeping Dean Smith. And I know we're hijacking the Leicester thing here, but it just kind of does get me it always gets me thinking, and people say, get rid of him, bring in a new manager, 10 games to go. Who would you bring in? Like, the precedent is there. Alan Shearer came in with 8 games to go. What did he do? He got Newcastle relegated. There is no precedence for 10 games. And for those of you that say get rid of him in December, get rid of him, you should have got rid of him in January or whatever, very few people were calling for his head when he got a contract extension on 29th of November. Hindsight is 2020. I don't know.
Absolutely. It's a strange one because I suppose look back at the managers that we've got rid of. I was nearly hoping that they'd go. This time around, I'm kind of going, I don't see the point. We're maybe not equipped to take on the Premier League the way we are at the moment, and financial fair play has caused that. When you think of it, yes, we spent 130 million, but I don't think we could have done much more with that 130 million than what we brought in. So I don't think this time sacking the manager is the answer. In the past, I couldn't see any green shoots with the likes of Lambert, Renegard. I didn't see what Sherwood brought to the team apart from a bit of passion. The football was chronic. This guy is trying to play football the right way. When he was wrong playing 3 at the back, he admitted he was wrong. He changed it. He's up front. He speaks it's all very well being one of our own, but you have to show it as well. And I think he does show it. I think he is hurt. I saw a clip of him the other night just after, I think it was the second goal or third goal went in, and he's just shaking his head, and you could just see the pain on his face. I'd say no one else in that stadium felt the pain the way he did on Monday night, and I could see it in him. And I know he wants to do well, and I believe in him. I do believe in him, but it's just a shame that the financial fair play has hampered us this season, because we could have come up and spent more. We all know the money's there. We know what the owners are worth. I just really hope that we could get through this season, stay up, see where that brings us, and then let the owners' bank balance speak for itself when it comes to that.
That is an important point you make there as well. And look, you got to take this as a whole as well. Okay, yes, results haven't been there. And we've all seen the graphic with the 20th in the league, 19th in the league, and in certain stats and stuff like that. We hold on, we get a point against Spurs. All right. And look, I know you said, I know people turn around and say, well, we didn't. Yeah, we're still within touching distance of the rest of the league. We have a game in hand. Theoretically, we go out, we beat Chelsea. We're above the relegation zone. Yet all our stats say that we should be 20th or 19th. So therefore, we're not outperforming where statistically we should be. And I think that's a positive as well. But looking at the whole thing, I think it was really eye-opening when Christian Purslow spoke. And call me naive if you want, but I don't think Christian Purslow is a bullshitter. And when he spoke to Johnny Gould's podcast at the Supporters Trust piece, he did say that the likes of Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, and so on, they can pay these players huge wages. They can get these players in on the wages because they have they're not falling victim of financial fair play. A big thing that was thrown at Villa this year was we didn't buy in Premiership experience. Okay, fair enough. Number one, if you've got, let's just say you wanted to purchase I don't know, I'm trying to pick someone out of the top of my head now. Someone like a Mark Noble, all right? Mark Noble's probably on 80 grand, 90 grand at West Ham. I don't know. He could be on a bit lower. He could be on a bit more. I don't know. But Mark Noble, we mightn't be able to pay his wages. Yeah, we might be able to pay 20 million for him. Not worth it. But, it's all well and good. We can fork out as much as we want in hard cash money for the transfer. But that's literally only buying the deeds for the player. It's everything else after that. The payment plan that you have for the player, the wages and piece. So buying, and this isn't a cop out either. This is just a genuine fact of the business of football, and it's always been the case. Deadly Doug would have told you this when he was still, part of over the club. That we could never, like back then, he used to say, we can pay money for players, and we paid 9.5 million for Juan Pablo Engel at a time when that was huge money, But we were very tight on wages. I remember when Martin Laursen came in, we bought him for like 2 million. And next thing, all of a sudden, we were paying him top-end wages of what we could afford. The time that Gareth Barry, could we keep him or could we not? And we ended up keeping him for a bit longer under Deadly Doug. And we ended up paying him top-end wages and so on like that. So wages, it's not a new thing that we've been struggling with wages. I think what it is now is that people forget that the books have to be balanced at a football club. And we're now, like, there is an us and them. There is a City, a United, or whoever, who it doesn't matter because their marketing strategy is so far advanced. Then, like we're literally like a cottage industry making bars of soap, and they are bloody Ariel making boxes of washing up powder. There's a huge difference. There's a huge chasm, and much as we like to think that we're equals with them because of the time we spent in the Premier League, our 3 years out of the league, and predominantly the 5 years that precursed those, when football went into overdrive, we were on the back foot, and we've 10 years of mediocrity, like it or not. So you get into the Premier League and people talk about Premier League quality. Yes, we could have bought Premier League quality, but we may not have been able to afford the wages. And look, I went on a bit of a rant there about it, but it's just, there's a lot of things have transpired. Just because you've got Premier League beside the name of your club doesn't mean you can act like a Premier League club. And I know the Sheffield Uniteds and those have they've fallen upon something magical whereby they have their manager is fantastic. Okay, yes, call a spade a shovel. Their manager is fantastic, but they didn't have the turnover of 11 or 12 people in their squad this year. We had to have a turnover of 11 or 12 people. There is no way Glenn Whelan would be any better in midfield, So, sorry, I went to a bit of a rant there.
No, the difference between ourselves and the Sheffield United is those 12 or 13 players. Plus, you always get somebody who comes up and just surprises everybody with their togetherness and the fact that they've got that heart and soul in the club. I thought we were going to have it this year. It wasn't enough. We're a little bit naive. I think going up in like 130 million or whatever it was we spent, there's a lot of money. But you mentioned there about attracting talent. If you remember back to July when we were linked with Benteke, the reality was we couldn't pay Benteke's wages.
Yeah,
we probably would have signed him instead of Wesley, but we couldn't afford his wages. That's the long and the short of it. And there's a whole process around financial fair play and getting back up, which really needs us to stay up this year. If we go down, is the end of the world. I'm okay with it. Obviously, I'd like to be playing Premier League football, but those balloon payments come in.
And
it means
we'll flag off Mings, McGinn, Grealish, and bring in the bonds of 200 million. And I know I don't want to do that. I don't want to strip the assets from our club. Probably lose heat.
But we don't need to either. Like, I mean, you can't hold Jack back any further. If we go down, that's the end of Jack. That's fine. I don't think we need to sell Mings or McGinn if we go down. I think Mings or McGinn coming back from an injury probably won't be 100% for a few weeks. So is anyone going to take a huge gamble on him? Because realistically, we've tied him down to a long-term contract. So you're going to have to pay big money for him. Mings has had his couple of brain farts. So is somebody going to gamble on him? I don't think so. Yeah. So I think if we can keep the squad together, I think we'd be fine. But I think for the moment, we probably want to be a little bit more positive that we can get out of this, because at the end of the day, you go back to that list of things that have gone wrong. If you take VAR and the things that it has done to us out of it, we're not in the bottom three.
And Paddy, Jesus, I see.
That's the most frustrating part of it.
Who was it? What fucking paper had it up? And they said, "Oh, if VAR decisions had gone the opposite way, this would have been." And Villa were like -4 extra points, and I'm going, guys, you clearly have not watched the games. You clearly have not watched.
It doesn't take into account of the fact that, for example, on Monday night, this, as I always say, second goal changes the game. I've coached for many years. I know how it is. Second goal changes every game. You're either chasing it or you're settling in for 5 minutes to have another go off them from after getting an equaliser. But when you go 2-0 down, same as we were at Wembley, we're chasing.
Yeah.
Completely changes the game. So you can't come in with all these stupid figures in a newspaper that it costs us the game. They do cost us a game. No matter what stage it comes at, it costs you the game. If you're 4-0 down and you give away a penalty because of VAR, that doesn't cost you a game.
No.
The second goal of a game always does. You go back to the very first game of the season, a fella gets up on the back of McGinn as he goes into the penalty area. Nothing. We spoke about the Arsenal one.
Arsenal game.
Crystal Palace. It could go on and on. You could go on and on. And I don't mean this to be a
Wesley's heel. What game was that where Wesley's heel the ball was the game?
That was Burnley. So
that's crazy.
Like there you have it. Like you think about the goal the other night. If you remember the other one, was it Liverpool where the armpit was offside?
Yeah, Firmino's armpit, yeah.
So apparently you can score with your armpit, but you can't defend with your shoulder.
Good point. Never thought of it.
Figure that one out. So who's right and who's wrong? You know?
Yeah.
Two referees decide, yes, you can score with your armpit. Two idiots sitting in Stockley Park say, oh yeah, you can score with your armpit. So he's offside. But yes, we stopped the ball with our shoulder. And it's a penalty.
It was the absolute point of his shoulder as well. I wouldn't mind if it was low down. I wouldn't mind if it was like that part of your almost the shoulder / arm where you might get a tattoo or somewhere, you know, that upper arm kind of area. It was the point of his shoulder, literally. Like it was, if you were to point out where is your shoulder, you would point to that very area, you know. Look, it's so subjective, and VAR has proven to be a farce. And, you know, it's every single week, and we're sick of it. There isn't a podcast in the world that isn't talking about VAR in a positive light. And they're
only talking about Premier League VAR. Yeah. Every other VAR is okay. They've just got this so badly wrong. I genuinely think the referees are hoping that they'll do away with it, that they won't have to put up with it anymore. So for that reason, let's not screw over the big teams, but let's make an arse of this VAR, and they might dispose of it next season, and we'll have the arrogant celebrity in the middle of the pitch running the show again.
Exactly.
Because I guarantee you, if that was at the other end, and that's Johnny Evans with his shoulder, that's not given. I don't care what anybody says. If we're playing Man United and they do that, it's not given.
The precedence is there. It's not given against Arsenal. You know?
Exactly.
It's not given against Arsenal. And the blood pressure is beginning to rise now with that conversation, but it's one or two things there. And I suppose that's a good segue onto it, because blood pressure was risen, apparently, allegedly, seemingly, by all reports, on the training field during the week. We had everybody's favorite bad boy, everybody's favorite scapegoat, and somebody who I've not been too enamored with since he's joined. Well, haven't been really enamored by either of them since they've joined the club. But Danny Drinkwater and Hata got a bit hotter under the collar.
It was well, we don't know because they haven't actually come out and said what happened. The funny thing was, when the news broke, I had actually forgotten that Hata was there. I forgot we still had him. You know, it's that long since we've seen him. Obviously we don't know what happened, so we can't really comment on it too much. But if it's a case that Drinkwater did give him an old Glasgow kiss, I think it's time for him to sling his hook, as far as I'm concerned. he's not our player.
No.
He's been given an opportunity to resurrect his career with us, and he hasn't exactly set the world on fire. So, sorry, I'm done with it. If that happened, I'm definitely done with him. I'm done with him anyway. But the club should be done with him if that happened. I presume they're dealing with it in-house, so there's probably more to it than meets the eye. So we'll let them deal with it, and I presume the truth will come out eventually.
Yeah, I would say there's probably an internal damage limitation piece in this. But then again, look, we heard that Dean Smith and John Terry boxed the head off each other after the Spurs game, I think it was, and that was completely false.
A lot of rubbish.
Yeah. So look, I'm sure it'll be kept in house. The club don't need any bad press at the moment. They're getting enough of it on the field when they're playing, rightly or wrongly. But but I'd be certainly, I would be of the opinion that if Danny Drinkwater did that, we don't need that around the club. There's surely some under 23 in there that you can give a run to for the last 10-15 minutes of games.
And we have John McGinn coming back in as well.
John
so hopefully,
McGinn, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's our new signing.
Exactly, Juan McGinn, straight up from Spain. But and also other midfielders that have focused in the news recently. The great Sid Counts came out and had some very sad news recently. It was painful read, but fair play to him for making the news public and putting it out there. I'm sure, look, with the type of disease with Alzheimer's and so on in the early onset, it was going to become apparent at some stage. But why is it always the good guys get struck down with these debilitating diseases,
Absolutely. Sid is such a gentleman. I've had the privilege of being in his company a few times at Villa Park, and he's an absolute pleasure to sit and talk football with. And all I can say is I wish him the best of luck, and I hope it's early onset. I hope the earliness of it lasts for many years, and we get to see him around for a long time, because it is a horrible disease, and really wish him all the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we do for him to be able to lace up and come in and help us at the moment now, because he's the type of player that he was, is somebody we could certainly do with inside there at the moment.
Absolutely.
But all the best to Sid Counts and his family. And is he still? He's not still in and around the club coaching underage and stuff like that, is he?
No, he stopped coaching a few years ago, as far as I know. But he does still have a role there on a match day.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some ambassador
in hospitality or ambassadorial role. Yeah, but he's definitely there on match day, because I've seen him over the last few years. All right.
Yeah.
And lovely guy. Wish him all the best.
Yeah, a guy that I would have on my Villa bucket list to meet. I've never crossed paths with him, but as I said, all the best from all of us here anyway, Sid, and keep fighting it. And I'm sure you're going to have years and years and years of good health yet to come. So that brings us to that dirty word, coronavirus. We're in the middle of a zombie film at the moment. Paddy, I went away and bought a shotgun, didn't even care about the license. There won't be any guards around anyway to catch me, but if anybody comes to my door with coronavirus, they're shot on the spot. I've watched about 10 zombie films and the first 2 seasons of Walking Dead, and I've got a Hurley wrapped in barbed wire and everything, just in case if my girlfriend here, if she catches it, she'll meet the same fate. We just can't take any chances. As the only one I won't shoot is the dog, so I hope the dog doesn't get it. But I think that's the appropriate way to deal with this, Paddy, isn't it? I think I'm right in saying that's how we should deal with it. Shoot on sight.
Shoot on sight. You have to have a laugh about it, because there's serious. There is a serious side to it. You looked at this morning. I woke up and I knew I was coming on to talk to you today, and I was going, yeah, great. Now we've got a game tomorrow. I was really looking forward to the game tomorrow. And then you hear Hudson-Odoi test positive, Mikel Arteta test positive, some Leicester players are in quarantine, and we played them the other night. So the possibility is there that we were interacting with those Leicester players the other night.
Oh yeah.
So we got to fear for ourselves as well. So I think it was the right move to cancel it, albeit it just makes this time of being at home awful boring, because the only thing we have to talk about is COVID-19 and this miserable Irish weather. So so what do we do?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I wouldn't have been a very big computer gamer. I wouldn't have gamed an awful lot. But 2.5 weeks ago, I sold my PlayStation. Great timing, wasn't
Great
it?
move.
Yeah, great move. So now I'm forced to become a professional darts player. I think that's my goal out of this quarantining or whatever you want to call it, is either brew enough beer to supply the community or become a professional darts player. And I'd say I'd say the darts might be easier the way these people drink around here. But no, on a more serious note, as I say, the cancellations, they're going to have a big ripple effect. We spoke earlier about relegation, potential relegation and staying up. It may be a moot point. It may not be anything that we may have any control over. Boris Johnson came out and said, you know, we could be 10 to 14 weeks away from the epicenter of this whole outbreak before this actually starts to turn in our favour as opposed to the virus's favour. If that's the case, like there's no way that the league is going to leach into next year. There will come a point where they're going to have to call it null and void. The precedence is there with the war previously, you know. And Paddy made a great point to me off air there. There's a contractual piece in this. Players' contracts, they end on the 30th of June. Bonuses are enacted on the 30th of June for players for where they finish. You know, so contractually, there's a big piece in this with regards to, you know, some teams could be forced if the league goes on till after June, unless there's some sort of rule that whereby people can sign 10-week contracts or something like that to keep them going. It could be a situation where some teams could be playing without certain players that are out of contract.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably some rule waiting to be written in by the FA for these, but you run the risk then of playing somebody out of contract who could get injured, whose career could be over.
Yeah.
There's just so many combinations and permutations to think about.
Yeah.
Plus, they're still saying they're going ahead with the Euros. I don't know whether that's going to happen or not. I still think in my heart and soul that we'll be looking at Euro 2021 instead of Euro 2020. But I think that's less important than the challenges ahead to get leagues finished. I was listening to Neil Lennon at some length today talking about the Celtic Rangers being cancelled, and he was just flabbergasted at how the whole thing escalated so quickly, because they were preparing for potentially their biggest game of the year, the league decider, and these things just have a habit of catching up on you just before, you know, the game is due on Sunday morning. So he sounded completely downhearted. It was actually a very hard listen, but very interesting at the same time.
He had a great quote, wasn't it? He said, and I kind of agree with him. I agree with him for champions and stuff like that. I agree with the fact that Liverpool, if the league is cancelled, Liverpool should be champions. I agree with the fact that Celtic, they've played 30 games. They should be champions, you know, because the Scottish League always just draws it out with the playoff, with the split in the division anyway, which is a lot of. That's just money making venture. That's all that is, you know.
Well, it's supposed to give you better games for the last 6 games of the season, which is understandable, but still, don't ask me why they do it.
Yeah, especially when you've got two teams, or one team for the last 10 years that has been so dominant. Is there really a need for it? But I agree with those. But then again, the counter argument here is, well, yeah, should Leeds be championship of the championship, champions of the championship, and then should they get promoted? I don't like. I think that I could still be on my high horse with the Villa side at the moment and say, well, we haven't played the same games as everyone else. If the whole lot of league could play the same games, or if we were 5 points behind, I would say, you know what, fair enough. We were only 1 game behind. Fuck it, there's nothing to say that we were going to claw back. It's a very real possibility that we could win our game in hand and be 1 point above. From that point of view, I'm a bit more bullish on it. If they cancel it, everybody goes down, everybody comes up the way it is. Also, the playoffs and the championship. So there's a lot of permutations there.
There's a lot of things. The most sensible suggestion was that the league continues with the extra teams next year. If they have to cancel it,
and 5 teams go down.
Bring up West Brom, and then 5 go down the following year.
Yeah.
If that's the way it's got to be, that's the way it's got to be. There's nothing you can do about it. But there's going to be a whole lot more games and a whole lot more Tuesday night games, and it's going to be very difficult to run them off.
Absolutely, because bringing up an extra 2 teams makes the league 40, and there's a reason that the Premier League, it makes the amount of games No, my maths are completely wrong there.
Because it's 42, is it?
Next amount of games, 42. The league is 38 games for a reason, because it allows for Champions League progression, it allows for UEFA Cup progression, and so on like that. So the only way that I would see that this would happen is if it was a blanket thing across Europe, whereby all the leagues did this, brought up the automatic promotion sides. And then what they did is they stopped the two-leg European situations, made it straight knockout.
Yeah. That would solve the issue.
No, it would.
But then again, you're talking about clubs losing money, and they're not going to be happy about it either.
Well, look, somebody's going to have
Wolves now getting a home and away leg, and they suddenly lose that. That home leg is worth so much money.
Somebody's going to have to cough up money somewhere. It's
absolutely.
We're essentially the closest thing that we've ever been to war in our lifetimes, and somebody's going to lose money somewhere. But I think fairness here will prevail, that whereby maybe play all the games at neutral venues, maybe play all the knockout games at neutral venues for the Champions League, UEFA Cup, split them down the middle, play them at big neutral venues. I'm talking like play them at fucking Croke Park in Ireland, play them at Twickenham, play them at Newcastle, play them at these big, massive, giant venues, these 80,000, 90,000s, as opposed to maybe the 40, 50s that they might be getting. Play them at these whoppers and split the revenue down the middle and give 10% to whatever stadium. I think there's something will come out of this whereby it's because like they're talking about doing that with Euro 2020 or 2021, whichever way you want to call it at the moment. So like it's not beyond the realms of possibility that think of the amount of money that will be injected into other parts of Europe, or would be injected into the likes of Dublin or the likes of wherever that don't get these games, but it would prop up the economy of Europe as opposed to the economy of Manchester or London or
Exactly.
It's so.
Sure, look, I suppose time will tell, and we've just got to ride it out now and see what kind of genius comes up with a solution. But for now, it's difficult to see where they're gonna.
Yeah. I'll try my best, Paddy.
To sort this one out.
I'll try my best. Come with your, come with the man. World. Exactly. This could be at a time like this. People need to stand up and take the bull by the horns. So we'll try our best. But yeah, look, it will be interesting. And I suppose realistically, we're not going to have a lot. Well, we're not. It's simple as that. We're not going to have a lot of soccer to talk about over the next coming weeks or so on. So don't worry though. We're not going anywhere. Just before we finish up, we're not going anywhere. We're going to try and talk to some Aston Villa fans around the world. It may not be as regular. It may not be able to say it's definitely going to be at a certain date or whatever. Well, we've never really been that anyway. We've been get it out whenever we feel like it. But we're going to try and bring you a couple of things. Might be some features with other teams. Might be some features with other Villa fans around the world. If any of you know of any Villa player that's bored off his tree at home and would just love to talk about football, give me a shout. We'd love to get him on the show. Absolutely. As I say, you guys are whatever you guys want or can offer us, we will get them on the show as best we can. But we're in an abnormal and unprecedented time in the world with regards to sport and regards to everything. So it's but as I say, we're going to try and keep the good things. I saw a great thing, Paddy, completely off topic. Saw a great thing, and the Italians are going through it at the moment. There's like I think there's like over 1,200 people have died in that country, and they're all quarantined in Lombardy, which is a big soccer place. You've got Turin, you've got Milan, you've got Florence. We're all the north of Italy. And I saw a lovely thing today whereby the people, I don't know where it was, but where everybody was out on their balcony and they were all drinking a glass of wine and singing songs to each other in this big long street. And it was like as if you were in the home end in San Siro. It was just really loud and everyone was making the best of it. Pretty crap situation, to be honest with you. And look, that's what we're going to try and do here, and that's what I suggest everybody does. Because quarantine is coming for us at some stage. Social distancing. I hate that word. Just call it what it is. It's quarantine. Make yourself a couple of quarantinis, martini and Red Bull. Quarantinis. I've
cocktail invented and all for this.
Yeah. I've tried to trademark that one here as well. Quarantinis. If anyone's having a quarantini, tag the podcast on Twitter and show us that. That's Martini and Red Bull. But make the best of it. And as I say, we're going to try and make the best of it over the next few weeks and try and get a couple of fans on and get to see what their experiences are around the world. And the fact that they are Villa fans is great to hear those voices from around the world as well. So that's really going to close it off for today. As I say, it's going to be a while before we see some football. This is a time of reflection. There won't be any changes in the club. We're not going to see our manager go. We're not going to see any players ingoings, outgoings. And Joe, what's great, we won't see any injuries either. I hope not. Maybe somebody falls down the stairs at home or something like that. That would be crazy. Or like the crazy injuries, like, was it Robbie Keane, was it, that was bending over for the remote and jarred his back or something? Hopefully none of that happens. But yeah, so football is kind of on hold, guys. But we're going to try and keep on bringing you something at least once a week. And with that, I suppose all that's really left to say is stay safe out there. Do whatever the government tells you. Short-term pain for long-term gain. And up the Villa.
Good luck.